Thanks for being here. We're going to have another panel discussion. Like Dan said, my name's James Wawrzyn. I'm a corporate transactional attorney at Meissner, Tierney, Fisher, and Nichols. I've also had the pleasure of working with each of the other panelists. If we have time at the end, we're going to permit each of them to air grievances about that work experience with me. So stick around, that would be a lively discussion. But so we have Brian Durst, he's CEO of Tribe 9 Foods, founded in 2017, based in Madison, Wisconsin, but with a reach to the Milwaukee area. We're going to get into more details about kind of the ethos of each of the companies throughout the presentation. We also have Ryan Sberna. He's CEO of Eagle Eye Power Solutions, founded in 2009, based in Milwaukee. They're in the battery monitoring space, distribution of systems as well as service and education. And then we've got Scott Reigle, colleague of mine at Meissner, Tierney, Fisher, and Nichols. I also consider Scott a good friend. I don't know if that's mutual. I guess he can get into that later.
It's true for one of us.
Yeah, but so anyway, we're going to walk through some examples, both on the entrepreneur side and also managing innovation once the business is off the ground.
All right, thank you, James. As he said, we're going to try and kind of make this free-flowing discussion. So we're going to throw some questions out to the panel. James and I are both going to moderate and participate in certain questions. And of course, Brian and Ryan, if you guys have questions you'd like to throw out, please feel free to do so. Broadly speaking, we're going to cover a couple different topics. The first one we want to get into is sort of the entrepreneurial spirit. How do we get things going, and what are the steps we take to set ourselves up for success? So first one, I'm going to throw this out to Brian and Ryan, and Brian, you can go ahead and answer first if you'd like. Thinking back to the start when you got Tribe 9 going, can you tell us a little bit about the position you were in, what sparked your decision to make the move, what were the considerations that you undertook, and what are some of the things that you feel really set you guys up for success?
There's a lot there. Maybe I'll hit one or two successfully. But, you know, I had never thought that I would be an entrepreneur. Came from a pretty humble background in northern Wisconsin, small farm town, and never really had resources or kind of family backdrop to feel like I could take a risk and go out and start something on my own. Especially when you look at a salary in front of you. I think the opportunity cost of having that and not having a safety net, you know, just made entrepreneurship feel like something out of reach for me. And so I felt really lucky that I had an entrepreneurial experience. It's actually starting a long-short hedge fund in Minneapolis with two partners who were further along. They were really the two drivers of launching this business. And they asked me to join them as a third partner to help them start the business. It seemed vetted enough to me with the right kind of people behind it that it didn't feel, you know, as scary or daunting as kind of striking out on your own. And so, but had the opportunity to come in as a partner and build that firm, and that was a really liberating experience for me. To be able to see, I'd had some great jobs in my background, and I'd never been. I thought I was passionate about them, but I realized I never really was truly passionate about something until I was part of the small team that was building it myself. So with that, fast forward a few years, I had an overlay in the food industry. We're a food manufacturer in Madison, Wisconsin. We manufacture our own brands of food, Taste Republic, gluten-free, grain-free, vegan pasta. RP's is fresh traditional pasta. And Yum Butter, peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter. But it's a small piece of what we do is manufacturing that for ourselves. Most of what we do is manufacturing for other brands, private label for retail. and food service. And so in my career, I had some experiences. I worked in the breakfast division as an intern for Pillsbury. My first job out of college was at Goldman Sachs, but I was in the investment banking group and the consumer retail group. So Sara Lee, Nestle, Campbell Soup were all clients. Those two experiences at Pillsbury and with those clients at Goldman helped me to put together some very strong opinions of what I thought was going wrong in the big food industry. Fast forward a few years, I'd had this more entrepreneurial experience and really wanted to kind of strike out on my own, had strong views about what was happening in food and why we could build a better model there. And so that was really what prompted the change. Something else is that's really important to us at Tribe 9. We're focused on using our platform of business to create positive change here locally, but also more broadly. So I believe we're still the largest B Corp in the state of Wisconsin. We're the only B Corp contract manufacturer. So I think I'll end there. I probably covered enough, but we can always dive in on more.
No, I think you got it. Ryan, would you like to take the same question?
Sure, thank you. I guess as I was listening to Brian and just trying to think of my own journey, I think I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit. When I was probably about 7 years old, a neighbor of mine, Benji, had a lemonade stand. So he asked me if I'd work it with him. So I went and sat down on 90th and Greenfield, and we sold lemonade for like 3 hours. But the whole time I was trying to recruit people and selling the lemonade and making the lemonade, and Benji was collecting all the money. And by the end of it, he said, "All right, thanks," and I didn't get any money. And I thought, all right, this isn't going to work. So the next day, I set up my own lemonade stand, and we kind of competed. And I was getting all the customers, and I was able to make some money. So as I continued to go, growing up on 90th and Greenfield, which was close to State Fair, I convinced my mom to buy a case of Jolly Good soda. I think it's a quarter of soda, and then I'd go down to State Fair with my wagon and sell soda for 50 cents. So I think I've always kind of had that spirit. As I got into college, I worked for a painting company, and once again, I was doing a lot of the work. I was going out and bidding jobs. I was doing the painting. I was doing quite a bit, and I kind of got that same feeling like, hey, why am I doing this for somebody else? I feel like I could do this myself, buy a couple ladders, go out and paint houses. After college, I went and worked for a company I went to college for business, and I went and worked for a company in the backup critical battery environment. I was a national sales manager there and sold batteries to utilities, and found some ways to bring in and incorporate other divisions into what I was doing. And over about 7 years, really saw a huge opportunity. Worked for a nice family-owned company, but there wasn't really a succession plan. And I just thought that, wow, this is something that not a lot of people do, and I feel like I could get into this space. So, in hindsight, the reasons that I went out on my own, obviously, as mentioned, kind of always feel like I've had that seed inside me of being an entrepreneur. But also, I felt like I could do it better. I felt like the company I worked for, although it was good people, it was very disconjointed, and I didn't know what I was a part of. I didn't know why we were, coming to work every day, and what our true purpose was. So that inspired me. So 12 years ago, before I started a family, I was like, I'm going to go out and do this, and I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to, have a company that had a purpose. I wanted to have a company that had a culture that cared about the people and cared about the customers. So, that's I think that for me, that's what was behind it, is trying to go out and kind of make a change and kind of make a difference.
So when you guys kind of look back at that entrepreneurial moment, that transition, kind of picking up on the question that Andrew had posed to the award winners, sort of looking back, are there any thoughts you have as now elder statesman, looking back, any tips you might have for people thinking about making that transition, or sort of lessons learned in that process, of how you might do it differently?
Sure. I think the first thing I would say is to not underestimate the importance of HR. And for me, it was my assessment of my lack of passion for HR, my lack of skills in that department. And I think if I were going to do things differently, I would have recognized that sooner. I would have recognized how much of my time HR was going to encompass, and how little experience I had dealing with any of it, and making sure I had really good partners to help with that. The other thing I would note is I didn't mention this in the first remarks, but my path to entrepreneurship hasn't been as much. I've never been the person to say, hey, let's go hang the first shingle, or let me come up with a new idea for a better product. That's not really my skill set. I've always been a little bit better at taking something that was existing and greatly amplifying its potential for success. And so for me, when I started Tribe 9 Foods almost 5 years ago, it wasn't just going out and leasing space and starting a new company. I instead acquired 3 smaller companies, integrated the 3 companies, and changed kind of our strategic focus going forward. On the one hand, I think that was, ahead of time, I thought, well, this will be fantastic. We'll have revenue, we'll have employees, we'll have a manufacturing footprint. I think in hindsight, though, integrating 3 companies, bringing together, it's hard enough, I think, when one company acquires another company to integrate culture. But if you're starting a company by bringing 3 companies together that each have their own different culture, and there's no reticent background culture to be based off of, that was a really difficult period. And so not having a particular skill in HR and having this critical challenge of integrating these 3 businesses, was pretty challenging. And when I spoke to a lot of my other friends who have started companies, they talk about, on the one hand, they didn't start with revenue, they didn't start with earnings, they didn't start with employees, but they were able to handpick their team as they went forward. And so as you handpick every person kind of coming in, you have the ability to create that culture organically, directly, versus this clash that kind of we started the company with. Thankfully, we've gotten through a lot of growth, and feel really terrific about our culture now and kind of the resulting business. And it was a little bit bigger platform to launch off of than to just start with 0 revenue. But in summary, HR.
That's great. Ryan, you have any reflections or guidance to your younger self?
I would echo probably a lot of the award winners today saying that, I think essentially it's kind of about the journey. So to go back and tell myself, what to look out for, I would have missed out on all those opportunities to really, be scared and have to be courageous, or have to have those long nights and really think about the things and sacrifice and go through that process. So, there's not really anything I'd go back from a business perspective. I definitely agree, I guess, number one with Brian on the HR thing, and just the idea that I'll just say I didn't realize in building a business, when you go out to build a business, for me it was more just an opportunity, and I wanted to see what I was made of and do these things. I didn't realize the people element. I didn't realize that, holy cow, 50% of my time is going to be managing people and getting really involved in that process, So that was, that's been a learning process, because I really authentically care about everybody. So I spend quite a bit of time trying to make sure that, I'm helping people and creating a great environment for people to work within. So I definitely think the HR thing, and that's something that I'm investing in right now. We have 22 people, but I've been working hard to try to find an HR manager. Really want to reinvest in that part of it, in the culture and not just me, but having somebody full time that can do that, because I already have a full time job, as a CEO. So I feel like it's not fair to all of our employees where it's like, okay, and then I'll also handle HR, and my CPA will also handle HR. I really want to put a focus on that and make that investment. One other thing I'll mention that I worked with you on was that, I went into business with a business partner, and great business partner. We're still great business partners and friends. He lives in Green Bay. I live in Milwaukee. And when we set off, we were just, full of, piss and vinegar and wanted to get after it and take the world by storm. And over the last 12 years, over time, you don't have those conversations when you first start. Like, there's no CEO, there's no VP of sales, there's just a couple people going out there and working hard. And both people, you don't even know the conversations that maybe you should have early on about, okay, well, how much do you want to work and how much do I want to work, and what does work-life balance mean to you and what does work-life balance mean to me? So I worked with James to restructure, and we got it right as far as restructuring ownership and stuff. But fortunately, I had a great friendship and a great partnership with my business owner that we were able to have that conversation after 10 years of business. But that's probably, I guess, if there was one thing that I would caution people early on, is just make sure that you have those difficult conversations early and just talk it through. People are pretty reasonable as long as it's a respectful conversation. You'd be amazed at how people kind of see the truth and they're willing to have those conversations, but the earlier the better.
So, James, listening to Brian and Ryan's answer, particularly to that question, you hear a lot in there about different things: corporate structuring, HR, I think acquisitions were mentioned. You being a person who works a lot with entrepreneurs getting their business off the ground, what are the types of considerations that you like to talk with them about, and what are the things that you see as critical to a successful new enterprise?
Yeah, absolutely. And Ryan, just to kind of pick up on that issue, I think with entrepreneurial spirit, I mean, obviously you have an idea. There's so much going on. I mean, we've heard about it this morning. I mean, you have to worry about the finance piece, the cash flow, sales. There's so much going on that, and again, the someone on the previous panel mentioning you go from trying to do everything in one day to being able to work on things a week out to a month out. I think, especially at that early stage, to be able to take a step back, take a moment, kind of think about what is the low-hanging fruit where you potentially can address those issues that are going to put you on much firmer ground going forward, so you have a better base for growth. And like an example, like especially with the technology, how are you protecting confidentiality? And that's not one size fits all. I mean, that's not just a matter of having a form NDA. For some opportunities, the NDA may be really off-putting, and you have to make the risk assessment on, whether or not how you're protecting it. But sort of taking that step back and thinking about, what are those sort of basic protections? And I'm obviously thinking about this from the legal perspective. It also relates to management and ownership. I mean, like Ryan alluded to. And again, taking that moment to think about what should we have in place? What's the framework that works now that's going to be a good fit, but isn't going to be kind of handcuffing us later? And I recently was working with a couple of friends. One of them had a patent, the other one had money. And they decided we're gonna give this a go. We're gonna try to get this product to market. And one of them had gotten their hands on a shareholder agreement, which it had all the bells and whistles. It had, just as an example, it had a very sophisticated valuation provision that would be triggered for various events. In the discussion we had at that moment in that endeavor is that it was unclear exactly where that business might go. I mean, even if it got off the ground, I mean, it could evolve into them having 200 employees and manufacturing product themselves, or it could be them licensing the product and not having any employees and just collecting a royalty. So at that stage, having a sophisticated shareholder agreement wasn't really the right tool. So again, I think it's just sort of, and picking up on what Ryan said, kind of taking those moments to step back and make sure that you have the right framework. And it's not always going to be, again, getting into the weeds on, the perfect, and again, from the legal perspective, the perfect structure, but just kind of having that feel of, are we making sure that we're kind of taking care of the low-hanging fruit where we can. So that, unless you guys have some reaction to that, that kind of wraps up the entrepreneurial piece, and I thought we could move into kind of innovation and how you guys manage innovation in the context of having a company that's up and running and sort of dealing with innovation while also handling the sort of day-to-day operations. And so, I mean, during the course of the evolution of your businesses, I know, Brian, your company recently acquired Carla's Pasta, so a new product line for you. I don't know if you want to comment on kind of how you manage that process of identifying how to kind of maintain that culture of innovation and take advantage of opportunities that do arise.
Sure. I think, for us, we were born out of 3 smaller food companies, and, it was people that came to launch their business because of a health condition or because of a dietary restriction or, a variety of reasons that were just kind of very authentic to them and their community. And as we put these businesses, together and built a larger platform, I would say ideation is never a problem for us. If we go into the conference room and we've got the sticky notes and the big whiteboards, we will leave with sticky notes, new wallpaper of sticky notes and all kinds of really great ideas and opportunities. And so for us, what we've really tried to do is take. First identify that we want innovation to be our lifeblood. It should be the central pulse of our organization. And if we lose that, we'll have made a big mistake. Secondly, we have so many ideas that we're trying to take some tips or some processes or some lessons from maybe what bigger food companies have put a lot of money in trying to develop, without actually becoming like that bigger food company or the process. Because, man, I'm not trying to become General Mills R&D. We started Tribe 9 because of the flaws we saw in General Mills R&D, and so apologies if there's General Mills employees here. I should make up a food company name that's big. So I think what we're trying to do, and I think that doesn't feel very comfortable. I think it's entrepreneurs know a problem, they're passionate about a thing, and they know how to go attack that. We want to make sure we capture that, but we've got to make sure then we also capture some kind of repeatable process to make in order. I'm working to build Tribe 9 into $1 billion food company. And if I'm going to do that, then we need to not be bound by just the passion and idea creation of a couple entrepreneurs. We need to be able to take that and create a process out of it. And so I think we've made a lot of great strides in doing that. I should note also, our innovation is a core of our business because a big part of our business model is manufacturing food for others. Because we're a B Corp, because we pay more for labor, because all of our energy inputs are renewable energy, powering our manufacturing plant, because we expand the amount of benefits that we have, we are at a cost disadvantage to other contract manufacturing firms. And so we've had to recreate the model that that doesn't compete just on cost. Just it doesn't compete on just lowest price, which is where contract manufacturing has maybe come from historically. And so to do that, a big part of it is how do we help our customers grow? How do we create new product lines? How do we create really new products for them? And truly become kind of a good partner over a long period of time in growing our businesses together. And so that just kind of points to how important innovation, is at the core of our company. And so I don't know that I have a final answer yet, but what we've been focused on is if we're doing it right, our R&D and innovation lifeblood process should feel really uncomfortable because it should take all of the great things that entrepreneurs have done, borrow some of the processes that are impactful, food safety, quality, making sure we're going through the rigor of everything, that we need to do from kind of the bigger food companies and sort of sit right in the middle.
Yeah, that's great. Ryan, sort of same question to you. You're sort of in this process of rolling out Eagle Eye University to kind of move into the education space for your product line. How do you kind of manage innovation within sort of your core functionality of running the business?
Yeah, for me, to give, I guess, a little insight, I'm in a kind of a technical industry. We essentially what we do is we sell DC power, education, solutions, and services to primarily utilities across the U.S. And abroad. But we work with telecommunications companies and UPS data centers, and all that kind of stuff kind of bores me really. I'm not interested in the technical side of the business. What my passion is creating an awesome company with great culture and an awesome customer experience. So because of that, I obviously, our passion is to make our customers, our employees, and our community powerful. So that's what I focus on. So obviously to make our customers powerful, initially it was all about I got to get the best products. So, and I'm competitive by nature, so if I see somebody with a better product, it's like, I'm obsessed about the fact that we got to come out with something better, So I work hard to make sure that we have the best products. And then over the years, it was like, all right, well, now we're selling products, and that gets kind of boring, and it gets, you're out there, and I got engineers and sales guys and stuff, and I'm accompanying some of these meetings, and it gets a little bit dry, and I'm like, where's the, sure, there's innovation in products, but where's the value? Like, I really want to start, as we develop more of a company, it was like, where's the value that we're providing customers? Today anybody can go start an online store and sell products, and we certainly did that, but it was like, all right, well, how can we do it in a way where we're not just selling products? So customers kept coming to us and saying, hey, where can we find education in the industry? We have guys that work at substations and utilities that, have been overseeing the batteries. Maybe they have 1,000 substations. We've been overseeing the batteries for 30 years. And now we have a 25-year-old kid who's coming in, and he has to now take over all these batteries, but he doesn't have the 30 years of experience. So where can we find some education? Meanwhile, I continue to meet and have relationships, having been in the industry almost 20 years now, of guys and girls that I have a lot of respect for that are retiring, but still want to give that knowledge back. So a light bulb went off, and we said, all right, why don't we start bringing in some of these folks that want to retire, create a university. Let's create Eagle Eye University where we can provide education back to the industry. So now we have at our, we just bought a new facility in Mequon to increase our training size, but we have a training facility in Milwaukee where companies send their folks in and they get classroom and hands-on training. And it's developed really quickly. We have some big contracts now where like the FAA sends in like 250 people a year to get trained, and all of a sudden it's like, if you lead with education, people see your value. Everyone wants to talk about education. People respect that conversation. It's a lot easier of a conversation to have than, hey, do you want to buy this product? And it builds trust. They see you as a leader in the industry because you have this education. And for us, it wasn't like, I didn't have that knowledge, but it's about relationships and finding people that do have that knowledge and bringing them into your company. and leading through education. So education's been a huge part of our innovation. And then also services. We've invested more in services. So now instead of just selling the products, we go out in the field and we install the products. And that's big too, because more and more, the companies in our space are very large companies. So the customer's experience is very non-personable. So we have service guys that are very personal, very passionate, go out, do a great job, get to know the customer, build a relationship. So through 12 years later, now we lead with education, we offer solutions, and we support them with services. So that's been our approach to innovation.
And Scott, I'm going to pay Scott a great compliment. He is a litigator, but he's a great litigator because he also takes the time to understand sort of the business decisions and the impact when a dispute does arise. What is the best sort of approach in kind of finding a solution that's going to be closest to the vision of the business? So Scott, if you could just kind of share with us kind of when things go south, kind of what types of considerations might be good to keep in mind going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the first thing I said, and I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially early on in their businesses. Things happen, you get sideways with people. Could be partners, could be business partners, suppliers, whoever. The number one thing I always tell people is, first of all, keep your head and be careful what you put in an email, because someday I am going to have to explain it to a judge. So do think about those things before you go into it. But the number one thing you got to think about whenever anything goes sideways is, what's my objective here? And that requires you taking a step back a little bit from the situation you're in, because when something goes wrong, obviously emotions flare up. And that's difficult to do, but it's something you have to keep in your head. You need to have, and this is something that I think all these guys have kind of touched on, at the beginning of an entrepreneurial enterprise, is having a strategic vision, having an endpoint you want to work towards. And if you know that, that makes things easier. And the same is true with dispute resolution. Is this a dispute with somebody who I'm going to need to be a partner with 10 years from now? Is this a dispute with somebody I'd rather never see again? And all those types of things are going to inform how you handle that dispute. And the other thing I would just say on this point is about 99.9% of all human disputes are solved without lawyers, which is a good thing. Not for necessarily our pocketbooks, but it's a good thing. And look for the opportunities along the way before I get a piece of paper on my desk that says, okay, we need to answer this in 30 days. That's really the big thing, is that every step between that lawsuit and wherever the relationship started, there's always going to be 100 opportunities to put things back on the right track.
I
James,
think
we're running out of time here.
Yeah, so you guys aren't going to have the opportunity to air your grievances today. Maybe we'll do that next time. But this has been a great morning. Really appreciate you guys joining us and sharing your insight. Congratulations to all the award winners.